Riddler to your Batman or whatever.
Yeah, right.
You
Yeah.
know, whatever, superhero you use and their arch enemy. Even that person, they have nothing but bad intention towards us. They have nothing but ill will towards us. But we're going to choose to see it as kindness because we can generate deeper qualities on the basis of what we're experiencing.
Well, riddle me this.
Very good.
Is it possible to develop these good qualities of compassion and stuff and still recognize this person really wasn't being kind?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
recognize, seeing what we see, because the whole idea is to actually see things as they really are, not as we...
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where we're not talking about creating a fiction here in terms of, oh, that person is really just fine and they're actually being really kind. They're a Buddha in disguise that's doing all these wonderful things for me. Well, I mean, you could hold that view. Maybe that might be going too far, but we don't ever deny the reality of what's going on. There are beings who are under the control of their crazy delusions that are harming others and that are harming us. And that is something we totally oppose. But we recognize that while we are on the receiving end of that, it's an amazing opportunity to actually practice patience and kindness. It also doesn't mean that that's all that we do, is practice patience and kindness while the person continues to do what they're doing. We do what we can to address it, but you're never going to address it effectively with a mind of hatred and anger. You're only going to address it effectively with a mind of compassion and kindness and love and concern, because then you see what's going on more clearly. As you're saying, it is in line with the truth. The truth is, this is a being under the control of their karma and delusions and doing all these crazy things that are going to cause them harm as well as harm others and myself. So I want them to stop. But while I'm on the receiving end of it, I also see that I have to get rid of my anger. I have to not follow those habitual patterns, and instead be patient and kind and tolerant in that way, and then also do the work to help them. And sometimes we can't do that work. Like I said, I can't fly over to Syria and Iraq and try to find the members of ISIS and say, I'd like to convince you to be a kinder person, because I really care about you. And you're creating a lot of negative karma by all the things that you're doing. I mean, my head would be gone in like 5 seconds, So in the meantime, I can sit on my cushion and think about the members of ISIS and be really challenged and like, how can I generate a mind that sees what they're doing as some measure of kindness for myself, not kindness in terms of the beings that they're harming, but kindness for myself because it helps me to extend my compassion even to people doing those atrocities. You see what I mean? It's hard. I'm not saying this is an easy thing, but yeah, Aaron.
It sounds like you're saying there's a difference between someone intentionally performing an act of kindness and us just receiving something as a kindness. And maybe there's other words, like if I was meditating and I would think, is it a lesson? Is it a kindness? Is it of benefit? Is it, this thing that I received?
Sure. I think benefit is a good word to think of because, again, benefit is always determined by the person who is receiving it. It's not, determined by the person who's doing it. Because even if you have somebody who's being intentionally kind to you, but what they give you, you don't benefit from, well, I don't know. Maybe that is a better word to look at. You still can benefit from those beings in your life, rather than putting this label of kindness. I don't know, all the great teachers that I've had, always use this word of kindness to refer to these individuals. Lama Zopa in particular talks about the kindness of the enemy. It's one of his...
Yeah, I think it's just in our language and our culture, we think of kindness as coming from the other person.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of words in Buddhism that the first time I heard, I couldn't use that word that all the great teachers used. It didn't make sense to me to say kindness until later down the road or whatever.
Right.
So...
No, and I think what you're saying, Aaron, goes for everybody in the room, that find the language that works for you, but I present it in the way that I've been taught it because that's the language that, I think is kind of the way that I need to transmit it. But understand these concepts in your own language and in what works for you, how you can see it, so that you can then reframe it. I use this word reframe to refer to what almost all of Buddhism is about. It's about reframing our situation. But not reframing it with just like a wild imagination, reframing it in terms of trying to come closer to truth. Yeah. Because if we do really understand what's operative, and we haven't quite touched on that with the compassion teachings, we'll get into that in terms of the situation that we are in, why we're in that situation, how we would effectively change it, all of those things that are taught as the Four Noble Truths, the very basis of all the Buddhist teachings. If we don't have that kind of understanding, then we can't have a basis or a platform from which to reframe and